F1's prize pot explained. Who gets what? 2021 saw the introduction of Formula One's latest Concorde Agreement, which dictates the terms by which the teams compete in races and how the sport's revenue and prize money is distributed. Since assuming control of F1's commercial rights in 2017, Liberty Media have sought to level the playing field by providing a more equitable division of revenue between the sport's teams. Here's how they've attempted to do that. Firstly, what's changed under the new Concorde Agreement? Well, very simply, an enormous amount. What previously existed was an inequitable revenue structure, where the sport's more established teams were favoured by special bonuses. Ferrari used to pocket a controversial $100 million a year just for turning up for the weekend, while Mercedes, Red Bull and McLaren also received Constructors' Championship bonus payments as part of their respective agreements with Formula One, and Williams were paid a heritage bonus. With no cost cap in F1 before 2021, the more money a team received, the more they could spend on performance. This meant that, from the 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix onwards, the aforementioned teams won every race and virtually locked out every podium until Pierre Gasly's shock win for AlphaTauri at the 2020 Italian Grand Prix. When Liberty Media took over F1's commercial rights in 2017, they realised that this situation hampered the sport and could not continue. Thus, they set about levelling the financial playing field. First of all, the difference between the top teams and bottom teams has been narrowed. In addition to that, the championship bonuses that are still paid have been diluted and can be earned by all teams, not simply the favoured few. For example, Ferrari qualified for total payments of around $200 million for winning the Constructors' Championship and a similar amount for coming second or third, whereas a non-favoured team received a third of that total for the same achievement. Thus, had Haas finished fourth in the classification and Ferrari fifth, Ferrari would still have received well over $150 million, whereas Haas, despite beating Ferrari, would only get around $50 million. So why do Ferrari get a special bonus? Ferrari are the only team that have been in Formula One since the sport's inception in 1950 and have millions of followers around the world. Just as an A-list actor attracts audiences to watch a movie, Ferrari attracts viewers to F1, so the other teams have agreed that Ferrari should receive some form of bonus for their drawcard status. Ferrari will receive around 5% of the total prize pot, which works out at around $50 million, whereas previously Ferrari's bonuses totaled over double that. However, owing to budget cap restrictions, they now cannot use that for performance, which makes a key difference. How big is F1's prize pot, and how is the money generated? It's a difficult exercise to quantify the exact payments because of the different factors which influence the size of the pot, and the exact payments are confidential. But after informed analysis of Liberty's published quarterly statements and comments made by F1 people familiar with the matter, RacingNews365.com has been able to obtain estimates. Essentially, there are four main revenue streams: race promotion fees, broadcast rights, sponsorship, and a number of smaller revenue streams including merchandising, licensing, and high-end hospitality. Liberty Media fundamentally derives about 31% of its total turnover from race promotion fees. It gets about 40% from media rights, 16% comes from sponsorship, and finally, 13% is obtained from merchandising, licensing, and hospitality. For the full 2022 season, these streams are expected to total around $2.2 billion. So, do the teams receive this money in increments or in one go? Well, our understanding is that this is paid quarterly, as opposed to the previous structure which dispersed the pot in 10 installments over the year. With Liberty Media being a Nasdaq-listed company and thus obliged to report quarterly earnings, a move to quarterly payments makes sense. So, have Liberty Media narrowed the difference in prize money between the top and bottom teams? Again, we don't know the specifics, but under the previous Concorde Agreement, the first-place team received 20% of the pot, and the last-place team took home 4%. This made for an average spread of 2% per position across the remaining placings. Under the new agreement, it is understood that the champion team now receives around 14%, with the bottom team taking around 6%, so the gap has narrowed considerably to about 1% per position. With the bigger pot due to F1's exponential growth under Liberty Media, this translates to around $10 million per place, depending on pot size. But what is the total prize pot at the moment? And how is it distributed between the 10 teams? Well, as we said earlier, Liberty Media's annual turnover stands at roughly $2.2 billion. It is estimated that $800 million is written down to Liberty's expenses and profit, leaving around $1.4 billion to be distributed between the teams. About $400 million of that sum goes into a separate bonus pot, leaving about $1 billion to be divided up between the 10 teams. The championship winning team would receive around $150 million, and the 10th place team would get around $60 million, with the rest of the money being distributed between the teams on a sliding scale, with about $10 million difference per championship placing. So what about the extra bonuses that teams can receive? Well, under the previous Concorde Agreement, Ferrari received their long-standing team bonus plus Constructors' Championship bonus, with Mercedes, Red Bull and McLaren also receiving CCB payments, and Williams their heritage $10 million. Although Ferrari's bonus still exists, albeit in diluted form, the CCB and heritage payments have fallen away. Instead, F1 now operates to a two-tier structure, whereby teams that have won Constructors' Championships receive a basic bonus, and a team that has won 2 or more championships receives a slightly bigger bonus. In addition, teams that finish in the top 3 during a backdated rolling 10-year period qualify for a bonus based on a matrix which pays points on a 3-2-1 basis, making for 6 points per annum and 60 over the 10-year period. Each year, teams are paid their bonus on a prorate basis. Thus, a team that has amassed 30 out of the maximum 60 points will receive half of the bonus, and one that has amassed 10 points will take home 16% of the matrix pot. So, with the prize pot to remain the same if the F1 grid grows, is this the reason many teams and key figures within F1 are opposed to an 11th team joining the grid? The short answer is yes. Under the previous Concorde Agreement, only the top 10 teams in the Constructors' Championship earned prize money, even if there were more than 10 teams in F1 at the time. The new Concorde Agreement provides payments to all participating teams, meaning that any additional teams would dilute the prize pot. To compensate the existing teams for this loss of prize money, any new entrant to F1 must pay an anti-dilution fee of $200 million to be distributed among the existing entrants. This gives each team a one-off $20 million, but with each championship placing representing a difference of $10 million, teams will lose the benefit of the anti-dilution fund after 2 years. Thus, a number of teams have spoken out against an 11th or even 12th team joining F1, unless any potential new entrant can show that it can contribute substantially to the sport's prize fund.